Hello there, precious person, and welcome to the Sunday Success Sessions. In today's video, we're discussing a sad topic, betrayal. Now, why have I chosen betrayal? Because it's happened to all of us. And yet, none of us wants to talk about it openly, and there could be many reasons such as guilt, shame, anger, regret, resentment, self blame, and feeling not good enough, just to name a few. And we make up these psychological, irrational reasons, like we have to justify the betrayal. No, my precious person, you don't. Betrayal is such a deep and complex topic that it causes a whole wide variety and range of emotions. It can occur in any relationship, romantic relationships, family relationships, between friendships, in a marriage, in a romantic relationship. And nowadays it's happening a lot in the workplace. Now, how do we process this betrayal when we experience it, and how do we move on from it? But first we have to understand, what is it? It is the breaking of the trust or the confidence of someone, resulting in feelings of hurt, anger, disappointment. And it can take on many forms, from small betrayals like breaking a small promise to larger ones like cheating on a partner, or siphoning funds from a family business. Betrayal can be deeply personal, and it can leave scars that can last a lifetime. Now, the types of betrayal are: number one, infidelity, and this is so common. I work with so many couples, and infidelity is a betrayal in a romantic relationship. It involves one partner engaging in some kind of physical, emotional, or even psychological relationship with somebody else. It's something where attachment happens outside the marriage. The second one is breaking a promise. Now, you may think it's small, but it's a significant betrayal depending upon who the person is who broke the promise and to whom. I mean, it could be something small that could change a child's life, or it could break a relationship in adulthood. Breaking a promise is not something small. Number three is lying. We've all lied. We tell white lies. We tell bigger lies. But telling lies is something that you really need to be careful of, because trust is broken when you tell a lie. Betraying confidence when somebody shares something personal with you, and then you go and share that information with other people and say, oh, don't tell anybody because I told her I'm not going to tell you. That's betrayal. It doesn't matter what the other person does with the information that you divulged, but you broke your friend's trust. The next one is abandonment. When somebody close disappears from your life without an explanation, it's very painful. It's a very painful form of betrayal. Think about children who have been betrayed by a parent. Think about a spouse who has been left, a person who has been left at the altar by their partner. Have you experienced any of these betrayals? I have. Many of them. In fact, all of them, if I'm honest with you. And it has hurt like hell. How each one of us handles these betrayals is different, and I know how I handle mine. I handle mine with maturity. Not before crying my eyes out and making a drama, but I did handle with maturity in the end. So let's talk about it. How would you handle when somebody lies to you? Now, people lie for all kinds of reasons. It can be influenced by many factors. Now, here are some common reasons why people lie in relation to betrayal: to avoid consequences. People tell lies because they don't want to face the repercussions of their actions. They don't want to get into trouble. They don't want to own up to their actions. Number two is to protect themselves from others. People lie to protect themselves from harm, like children lie in a school, or maybe people lie to gain an advantage. Some people lie to gain an advantage from others. They lie for favors. They lie for money. They lie in personal relationships. They lie in a workplace for a promotion. People lie to avoid hurting someone else's feelings. They think they're doing that person a favor, but actually they're not in the long run, because they don't want to cause conflict. But they don't realize that this itself is a betrayal. Some people want to make themselves look good. You want to portray yourself in front of a future partner in a really good light. So you lie about your age, you lie about your background. So overall, lying is very complex. It's influenced by many factors, but it's important to recognize that lying can have a very negative consequence and erode any relationship because it erodes trust. It's always better to be honest and to be transparent with others, even if it's going to be difficult in the short run. Let's talk about infidelity. Now, this is a biggie. Infidelity is basically cheating in a marriage or in a committed relationship, and it's very painful. It can have significant consequences for both partners and if there's a child involved. There are many potential reasons why people cheat in a committed relationship or in a marriage. And as a couples counselor, I see these reasons as some of the main reasons. Number one is a lack of emotional intimacy. Sex is great, but it needs to translate into an emotional intimacy, like sharing your feelings, sharing your experiences, sharing your day. Sharing on an emotional level makes people feel connected. It makes people feel fulfilled. And if you don't, then they seek this fulfillment with somebody else. Number two, lack of sexual satisfaction. Like I said, sex is important. It's healthy. It's really, really critical to a relationship. So if one partner feels neglected or feels like their sexual desires are not being fulfilled, they're going to go somewhere else. The third one is boredom. People become predictable. You get into a routine. There's no excitement. There's no novelty. So you get bored and you want to seek novelty with somebody else. And this happens because of low commitment. Relationships that have low commitment, they continuously seek novelty because they have issues with trust. They have issues with a lack of investment in the relationship. They're not committed to the relationship. The next one is seeking validation. Now, I always say that we need to be our own greatest validator. But human beings seek validation, especially from our partners. They seek a certain amount of self-esteem in their partners. They seek attention from their partners. And so validation is something that partners inadvertently seek from each other. And when you don't get it, when you can't validate yourself, it ends up being so empty for you that you want validation from someone else. It's important to communicate openly with your partner. It's important to seek a counselor, to seek help from maybe a sex therapist. People breaking their promises. People break their promises for various reasons, and it can be very complex and can be influenced by many things. But the main reasons for people breaking their promises are, number one, changing circumstances. Sometimes people make promises with the best intentions, but then unexpected circumstances arise that make it difficult or sometimes impossible to follow through. For example, someone promised to attend their best friend's wedding, but then a sudden illness or maybe a work assignment led them to go to another place. So they couldn't fulfill that promise. The next one is a lack of commitment. Now, people make promises without fully committing to them, either because they don't want to disappoint others, or maybe they were put on the spot, or maybe they don't fully believe in the promise themselves. Now, this lack of commitment makes it very easy to break a promise later on because there's no foundation for it. The next one is forgetting. People simply forget about promises they made. I've experienced this many times, and I remember promises, but the person who made them just casually says, "Oh, I don't remember, I never thought about it." And that shows a lack of friendship. What about obligations? People may prioritize obligations, and they make a promise because of an obligation. For example, an obligation to attend a friend's launch party, or an obligation to go for a work dinner. So they break it because they are feeling obliged. The next one is fear, or sometimes avoidance, because they're afraid. They're afraid of the consequences of going through with the promise. They're afraid of avoiding a difficult or uncomfortable situation. So you see, overall, breaking a promise can erode trust in a relationship. It can have negative consequences, but it's a huge betrayal. How about betraying someone's confidence? Now, this happens all the time. I hear about it all the time. This is one of the worst types of betrayal because it just shows a lack of respect and a lack of trust. And this is extremely difficult to get back. When you betray someone's confidence, you're breaking their trust by sharing private information that was given to you in confidence. and that was meant to be kept confidential and private, and you went and shared it with somebody. Because when someone confides in you, they're sharing personal information or feelings that they definitely don't want others to know. Otherwise, why would they share it with you and tell you, I'm telling you this in confidence? You just violated their trust, and you potentially maybe even causing them harm. For example, say your friend confides in you about a personal struggle with their partner or a sensitive issue, and they don't want you to share that information with others without their permission, and they tell you, and then you go and do exactly that. You've betrayed their confidence, right? This can have negative consequences on their other friendships. It can damage their reputation, and it can cause them great emotional distress. So betraying someone's confidence has a long time effect on the relationship between you and that person, because there is hurt, there is embarrassment, there is a loss of trust, and nobody's going to confide in you in the future. It is important to respect the privacy and confidentiality of others, just like you want them to respect you and your confidentiality and seek your permission to share information, because respect and integrity go both ways. Respect and integrity build a relationship. What about abandonment? Abandonment is a form of betrayal because it's breaking a commitment or a promise to be there for someone when you need them. When you abandon someone, you show them that you don't care about them. You show them that they cannot count on you for support that they expected from you. This is extremely painful for children. It's extremely painful for adolescents, and it's extremely painful in a marriage. Even in a family, when siblings, they don't support each other, they abandon each other. Abandonment takes on many forms: ending the relationship abruptly, walking out on a marriage or a friendship, neglecting responsibilities to care for a parent, for an elder, or for someone in need. Emotional abandonment is where someone is physically present but emotionally distant or unavailable, like say a parent who suffers from addiction or a parent who's obsessed with themselves. This can be extremely hurtful because it's coming very unexpectedly. If the person being abandoned was not given any explanation or closure, it can cause feelings of rejection, loneliness, despair. It can be very difficult to cope. It can be very difficult to trust other people. It can be very difficult because then they might abandon somebody else because they don't know how to be there for people because they were abandoned. So it's like a cycle of repetition. Abandonment is a form of betrayal that is of the worst kind because it's breaking a commitment or promise. And that person needed you and you abandoned them. That's really sad. Now that you have some insight and perspective about these different kinds of betrayals, how do you move away from these and not do them yourself and move forward into an empowered life? Now, moving forward from betrayal requires guts and courage. Number one, acknowledge your feelings. Betrayal can be a deeply emotional experience, and it's essential to take time to process and understand the emotions. Understand what you're going through in your heart. Understand what your thoughts are, what your emotions are, how are you feeling, what does it feel like in your body, what does it feel like in your mind. Please seek professional help if you can afford it, and it's going to cut your time by more than 3/4. Communicate. Whether it's the person who betrayed you or with a therapist or a friend, understanding your feelings and communicating and verbalizing them and confronting the person concerned may not be always the best way, but communicating is the best way with somebody that you trust. Confrontation is different from communication. Confrontation could have repercussions, like in a business relationship, or if there are multiple people involved on a secondary level. There's so much more to think about. But communicating with someone you trust or with a professional is definitely the best way to move forward. The third one is to set boundaries. When we get too close to people, it is essential to understand that you need to protect yourself in the future to prevent such future betrayals. You need to understand that this is on them. It's not on you. So don't get soft on people who betray you. Don't let them infiltrate your space again. Trust your gut. The next one is forgiveness. Forgive. but don't make the same mistake again. And forgiveness can be very challenging, but it's very powerful to move forward. Because the forgiveness is that you're forgiving the act because of the person's ignorance, but you're not forgiving what the person did. You're not forgiving the person. It's very tricky to navigate. So, for example, are you forgiving the person for what they did? Are you forgiving them for your mental peace? Are you forgiving them because you want to get them back into your life? Now, I will say this, that forgiveness is very cathartic for yourself. You're human, you got betrayed. Stop the self-blame. Move on and learn from this. Don't make it a pattern. The next one is seek support, like I always say. Whether it's through therapy or a support group or talking to a trusted friend or colleague. People who have experienced betrayal go through trauma and they need healing. This will cut your healing curve by more than 80% by seeking support. Now, in conclusion, like I said, it's a very complex experience, but it's essential for you to remember that you're not alone. With time, with support, with persistence, with belief, with self-care, you can move forward and heal from this pain of betrayal. Remember to take care of yourself. Remember to seek help if you need it. You're not alone. Now, before I go any further, please subscribe, please like, and please share this video. Don't forget to register for my masterclass in April, in the first week of April. It's on a Sunday from 10 to 1. You're going to get 4 free gifts. I'm going to talk about all sorts of things. So once you register and you click the link, you get your gifts. Don't leave the page. As soon as you put in your details on the registration form, it's going to direct you to a WhatsApp group. Join the group. I'm going to be talking about everything that you need help with. Even before the masterclass, if you want me to include a topic besides the 3 skill sets that I'm talking about, if you want me to include a topic, I will do that for you because you're special and you matter. And the reason I'm talking about betrayal today is because I've been betrayed so many times in my life by so many people. By my ex-husband, by my ex-fiancé, by one of my best friends. I've been betrayed by colleagues. I've been betrayed by people I really looked up to and admired, and they turned out to be complete frauds. I considered them my mentors. And that's why I think it's so important to talk about betrayal. Betrayal happens on every level, but you have it in you to heal because you are full potential. You can be the conscious creator in your life. So pick yourself up, dust yourself off. Join me for my masterclass. Ask me questions that matter to you. And let's heal you with your hard work and persistence. Stay true to being you, precious person, and I'm Avril Q.